Hello, this is Eva Clark of Mind-Based Healing. And in this presentation here, we're going to be doing an exercise to help boost your scripts with future pacing so that you can be specific to the client in front of you. Because oftentimes you will read a script to a client, it will be an amazing classic script, and what'll happen, they finish the session, they feel so good, they feel confident, they feel like on top of the world. But when they come back a couple weeks later and you ask them, how'd it go? How are you doing? How's the confidence? They might tell you things like, well, yeah, it worked with my son, not so much with my husband, and my boss has been pretty moody lately, so it's been really difficult to apply it there. But I'll keep trying, right? That's telling you that the script did not work as it could have. Now, if you're able to make it more specific to their problems, you will actually boost its effectiveness. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So the normal structure of a hypnosis session, we have the pre-induction where we interview our clients. We then put them into trance through some sort of induction and then a deepening, and we will deepen them depending on the kind of work we're going to do. Then we will utilize our hypnosis script for the problems they have. We will do regression work or past life regression work, inner child work or parts work, etc. And then before we call them back out, we might have some post-hypnotic suggestions. And then we terminate the strands. So when we apply a script and the utilization, oftentimes what we do is we have a few references that we use often. And when a client comes in, for example, with issues with confidence, we're thinking, ooh, I have the perfect script. There's this great ego strengthening script. It's really good with confidence issues. And so we decide that's the one we're going to use with them. And so we put them in our trance, we get them nice and deep, and then we begin to give them the suggestions of the script. For example, you are going to feel physically stronger and fitter in every way. You will feel more alert, more wide awake, more energetic, etc., etc. And I'm actually going to take a specific script. This one is called Suggestions for Ego Strengthening by John Hartland, page 147, 148, and 149 of this book. Your handouts will actually have this script, so you can also look at it afterwards. But we're going to be very specific. We're just going to take one part of this script and boost it using future pacing. And this is the part we're going to use. As you remain more relaxed and less tense each day, so you will develop much more confidence in yourself. All right, our client has issues with confidence. More confidence in your ability to do not only what you have to do and to do them each day, but more confidence in your ability to do whatever you ought to be able to do without fear of failure, without fear of consequences, without unnecessary anxiety and unnecessary uneasiness. And because of this every day, you will feel more and more independent, more able to stick up for yourself and to stand upon your own feet, to hold your own, no matter how difficult or trying things may be. Perfect, we think. So this is the thing. Let's say we have two clients. Clients A, clients B. Client A comes in and she has an issue with her husband and her boss in particular. They are very loud and boastful men, and she feels very run over by them. And she's not able to speak her mind at all. with these people. She notices that most times she ends up crying, which really isn't very effective way to stand up for yourself. Our second client, client B, in this case, his issue is not with his spouse nor with his boss. His issue is with his his friends that he's known all his life. This group does a lot of activities together. And what he notices is that a lot of times they're doing things that he doesn't want to do anymore. You know, he's in his 30s, he's got kids. He doesn't want to do those things, but he notices that he's not able to not do them. To say, no, I don't want that fifth beer, or hey, I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to go because tomorrow I have to work. And so he feels like, oh, I ought to be able to. Suggestions, great, you should be able to. I ought to be able to. And he feels like, don't have the confidence to do something different than the group. It's very frustrating. Perfect. So let's see how we're going to boost that script for each one of these individuals. So now, before we change our script, let's get a little bit of history of what is future pacing. Future pacing is used in NLP. What it refers to is after you've made a change in their beliefs, their behaviors, or a state, you want to test that change in the future into specific situations that they know will happen or are very typical, for example, with their boss or with their friends, to make sure that it works and it works as they want it to work. And also it creates a credibility like, oh, I can do that, right? And so with our two clients, we would test, okay, it's Monday and you're at work and your boss is, questioning you about the solution you have on that particular problem, right? Or your husband comes in the kitchen as you're making Thanksgiving and he's, asking you about why does the apple pie have to have blah, blah, blah? Or why didn't you tell me so and so called? To test, is my client, are they able to stick up for themselves and how is their response? Another thing about future pacing is you want to test it in specific events. So they will have told you, or you will ask them because they're not in trance, okay, take this to something specific that happens. And they say, oh, this always happens in meetings. Great. Imagine you're at a meeting and your boss does what he usually does. Notice how you respond this time. And you have them close their eyes and envision they're at the meeting, and they test their new belief, behavior, or state to see if there's a change and if that's the change they seek. And when you have them test in that way, you want them to fully get into that experience, see what they see, hear what they hear, feel what they're feeling. And there's two ways for them to test. They can either imagine themselves in the meeting responding differently, or they can watch themselves in the meeting with their boss and everybody else responding differently. Both are valid. Both give the credibility, and they're both very specific. One is more directional, the other one is more experiential, conditioning. I love using both. I'm not going to argue which one's more effective. Use them both. It's not that difficult to add both. All right. So let's begin. How are we going to future pace a client that is in trance? Because at that moment, you might not want to tell them, okay, where would this be useful? And they have to start thinking, they might get themselves more out of trance, right? You want to have that information before they get into trance. So we're going to be getting the information during the pre-induction, and I'll give you some questions of how to do that, how to get that information. And then we'll be putting that information in the script itself, and we'll be looking at that script on ego strengthening and how to do that, and creating post-hypnotic suggestions that include future pacing. Okay, let's begin. Once you've asked your client the typical questions in your pre-induction of what is the problem, what's their name, what is your experience with hypnosis, you want to get a lot more details, because as we noticed, case A and case B, it was very different, the abilities they needed and the tools they needed and when they needed it. So how are we going to do that? Once they tell us the problem, and in both cases, they'll say, I think it's a problem of confidence. You want to find out, what do they want instead, right? Because the answer will be very different. So we're going to focus mainly on our case A, and then with the time we have, we'll do as much as we can with the case B. So if we asked our case A, what do you want instead? She might answer things like, I want to be able to hear their opinion and then be able to state my own opinion rather than stay quiet or feel like I can't say anything. Okay, so you want to be able to hear them and then express yourself. Yes, okay, perfect. Next question. What will achieving that do for you? Right? We're getting a little deeper into what it is they're wanting. And here, case A tells you, I don't want to keep feeling like a little girl again with an overbearing father. I want to feel like an adult with just as much say as they have. So, a lot more information is coming through. Then you can ask, well, we want to start getting some proof, right? Proof that we're going to use with our future pacing. So how will you know that you have achieved that you're no longer like a little girl, instead you're an adult with the same amount of opinions and value of your opinions as others, where you can hear them and you can express yours? How will you know you achieved it? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? And so there the client will start describing, those are going to be words that you're going to use in your future pacing. Instead of using the words, I'm going to feel confident, she might say, I'm going to feel like an adult. I'm going to feel strong. And I'm going to say, I hear you. And I'm going to be hearing myself say, and this is what I think. So all of these things that she is telling you during this pre-induction, during your interview, are going to be things that you can then repeat to her. And when the words that you use in this session are their own, it is so much more powerful, right? We've all learned that. So then what else do you want to ask them? Remember, we want it to be specific. So we're going to ask them specifically, where do you want that feeling of, I'm an adult with my own opinions? When do you want to do it? Is it breakfast time? Is it during Thanksgiving cooking time? Is it in meetings? When specifically do you want this feeling? And then with whom do you want it? And so this client, she talked about the boss, she talked about her husband, and perhaps when you start asking her, she might also say, my doctor, I have an autoimmune disease, and anytime I go to my doctor, again, I fall into that little girl, I can't say my opinion, even though I don't agree with what my doctor's told me. Okay, we're getting information that we can then use as we future pace. We can add that to our scripts and our post-hypnotic suggestions. Now we can get a bit more information, which will also help us. Because if you remember, a lot of times in scripts, This script even says, because you're doing this, therefore, this is also true, right? We're going to do the same thing. And so in our pre-induction and our interview, we're going to be asking, what are you already doing? And she might say, well, with my son, he has opinions very different than I, and I listen to them, and then I tell him his the opinions there I have no issues with anymore. I had some issues for a while, but that has totally changed. And with my mother is also, I no longer do that. Great. So then when you're creating your future pacing and your post-hypnotic suggestions, you can do the same as a typical script. Because you're able to do that with your son, now too, you find it easier to do this also with your boss and your father. These are some examples, right? So you can ask them, oh, give me a couple of examples. Then you can say, wow, same as when you do this with your son, when you speak to him this way, when you share, so too now you can, etc. And then you want to see what stops you, right? In this case, she might say, well, what stops me is I feel like that a little girl, and it just totally just blocks me. By the time you've done these questions, you might actually decide that perhaps suggestion work using a script is not the most effective way to work with this client. She's talking a lot about little girl, a lot about dad issues. Maybe we need to do a regression or inner child work, right? Or perhaps you're just going to record that and say, okay, you know what, for the first session, let's just do straight hypnosis and straight suggestions. And then she gets a little more used to using hypnosis and things and gets a little more confident of working with me and sharing things with me. And then we can do this deeper work, this more, childhood issues in our next session. All right. In the second case, again, we want to go from the problem to where are you going towards, right? You're moving away from the problem, where are you going towards? Our second case, the guy with friends who were still drinking and partying in their 30s. What do you want instead? He might describe things like, I want to be a responsible father. I want to be a good model for my kids. Oh, that was something that you can add to the future pacing. Very different than our first case, right? Even though we're going to use the same script. What will achieving that do for you? I'll feel good about myself. I feel that I am responsible. I feel like a model. I feel proud. And I don't feel hungover. How will you know that you have achieved that? Again, you're getting some information. What are you going to see? What are you going to hear? What are you going to feel? Again, I'll be seeing myself, checking my clock, and my watch is, my wife gave me this watch when our son was born. You just got an anchor. Every time, remember, like a suggestion, every time you look at the hour, you remember, I'm a dad. So all of these elements, as you're asking these questions, are giving you all this juicy material for your suggestions. Where, when, how you'll achieve it. You might say, okay, well, I'm hearing myself saying, hey kids, I'm going home. I've got a kid of my own, etc. And so you're starting again to collect information. Where, when, with whom. When it's 9:30 p.m. on a weekday, when I'm on my fourth beer, etc., because you'll be using these specific moments in your suggestions using future pacing. Ask them again, what are you already doing? And he might just be telling you, well, I'm avoiding seeing my friends. Then you can ask, is that what you want to be able to keep doing? And they might say, well, I would love to be comfortable enough that I can hang out with my friends and I know I'm going to get home on time. Okay. And what stops you? I just feel under pressure. I don't want them to not like me. Again, as he starts telling you about what stops you, you might start thinking, suggestions and scripts might not be the best way to handle this I need to please, right, belief. But in this first session with him, you might decide, you know what, I'll work with the script first, and in the next session, we'll work on the deeper issues of the I need to please, when he's more comfortable with me and we're able to really look at things in depth. All right. Okay. Now we've got our information from our pre-induction that we're going to start weaving into the script and then into the post-hypnotic suggestions. So we'll be substituting words from the script. If the word in the script said confidence and our client is more about feeling like an adult, then we're going to substitute those words, right? And then we're going to create post-hypnotic suggestions, which is really helping the client envision specific situations that you've already, asked about, specific situations with the change that they desire. You want them to fully experience those situations, both in first person. So you want them to be there, see through their eyes, watch their boasting husbands or their boss, etc. And you also want them to be able to see themselves as they are acting as they want them to be acting. And hypnosis, always repetition, repetition, repetition. My teacher, Raina, used to always say, don't be scared of repeating. Repeat, repeat, repeat. In hypnosis, it feels great and it really brings those changes in. And you actually want to use the problem, the old triggers of the problem. So you want to look at that first client. The old triggers is boastfulness, is men that have strong opinions. You want to actually use elements of the problem to automatically trigger the solution. And this is called conditioning. I don't know if you guys heard of in biology class or psychology class, Pavlov's dogs. He was a scientist and he had some dogs in the lab. And what he would do is, as he was feeding them every day, he would ring a bell, something in the background. As he was feeding them, ring the bell. As he was feeding them, ring the bell. Got to the point that all he had to do was ring the bell and the dogs were already salivating. So we actually want to do the same. We want to find elements of the problem, the beer, the time, friends' faces, boastfulness, and use the problem to trigger the solutions we've envisioned for our clients. Because I think this one is fascinating. It's not just about having them imagine a future without the problem. You can actually use the problem to condition the solution. This is also used in NLP with the swish pattern. In the swish pattern, you actually have the client just begin to experience the problem. You almost have them, it's almost like it's a first frame in which they're almost going into their problem. Or case A, she's going into the problem of feeling like a little girl. And just as she's beginning to experience that, you swish and change to the solution, her acting as an adult and being able to express herself. So for example, one of the post-hypnotic suggestions would be, for our case A, every time you get that gut feeling of being a little girl, you remember this experience of calmly and collectively sharing your views. And then, for example, when we've interviewed our case B with his friends, he might say that one of the most difficult things is when his friends say, hey, how about another beer, John? Right? So we use that. And again, every time you hear your friends say, come on, John, one more beer, you remember You are a father, a dad, leaving early to attend to your fatherly duties. So you're giving him a visual and of what that is, that fatherliness kind of thing. Give you a few examples of changing a problem to a solution. For example, I have many clients, you probably do too, who have difficulty in getting to bed at a good time. Usually what happens is they are surprised at how late it is, and then they just get it wakes them up even more, and they end up having to go and finish all the dishes and do all the stuff, and then it's even later. And so you can add, every time you are surprised at how late it is, you remember the cozy feeling of tucking yourself in. In my work in medical hypnotherapy, we use this actually to take the symptom into the solution. So someone who might have a knee problem, every time they get this knee problem, they just feel disempowered. They feel like they can no longer take care of themselves. And you can say in the post-hypnotic suggestion, every time you feel that twinge in your knee as you get out of your car, you remember just how comfortable you are right now, lying here, so in control of your comfort and so in control of your life. So let's see how we bring this all together with our two clients. What I actually suggest is that you close your eyes and just let yourself go into very gentle trance. I'll just count from 5 to 1. So that you can just sense into the experience of what it's like to listen to the generic script and just notice the difference of adding this future pacing, these specifics into the script and into the post-hypnotic suggestions. What I will do is I will first read our original script from the book, and then what I will do is read through the changes for our client A and then the changes for client B. All right. And so just getting settled down. Close your eyes when you're ready. Feel your bum on the chair, in the position of your hands as you slowly begin to settle in. And being curious of how different the suggestions may be as we add some specific elements of future pacing. And so 5, just settle in. 4, allowing your breath to become slower and deeper. 3, nothing you have to do for the next 10 minutes. 2, and 1. Being curious as you listen to these messages. The script itself. And as you become and as you remain more relaxed and less tense each day, so you will develop much more confidence in yourself, more confidence in your ability to do not only what you have to do each day, but more confidence in your ability to do whatever you ought to be able to do without fear of failure, without fear of consequences, without unnecessary anxiety, without uneasiness. And because of this, every day you will feel more and more independent, more able to stick up for yourself, to stand upon your own feet, to hold your own, no matter how difficult or trying things may be. And now adding to our scripts and our post-hypnotic suggestions, future pacing. The woman who feels like a little girl. And as you become and as you remain more relaxed and less tense each day, so you will develop a much greater sense of your adultness. An adult with confidence in your ability to listen to others' opinions calmly and then state your opinion without fear of overbearing fathers, without fear of feeling like a little girl, without remaining quiet. And anytime you experience a boastful person, their chest puffing up, you remember your adult confidence and your ability to share. Not only what you have to share, but your ability to share whatever you want to share and share it calmly and collectively. And because of this, every day, you find that you see boastful people and treat boastful people like the adult that they are. And you see and you treat yourself like the adult that you are. Able to hear others' puff-chested opinions and able to share your opinions because you are an adult and equal to all. And because you're equal to all other adults, you feel more independent in your opinions and your ideas, more able to stick up for your views and stand on your own two adult feet, no matter how difficult or trying things may be. And now the post-hypnotic suggestions. Now imagine yourself in a meeting with your boss. He has stated his opinion on the project you've worked on. You listen to his words, his ideas, his views. Then you pause. You take it in, and then calmly and collectively, like the adult that you are, you share your ideas and your views and your words. Life at home has also become more collaborative. As you prepare Thanksgiving dinner, your husband comes in and asks you about the ingredients of the apple pie. You listen to his views, his ideas. You pause, take in his words, and like the adult that you are, you calmly and collectively share your ideas and your views on what makes a good apple pie. You have shared your views with Peter, your son, so now you feel capable of sharing your views with others in your life. You even share your views with your doctor. So now take a moment to see yourself there in your doctor's office. Watch him expressing so boastfully his views as you watch yourself calmly listening. Then watch yourself pause, your demeanor calm and collected, and listen as you express what you, as an adult, that you have now become. Express what you think and feel is best for your health. Because now, every time you get that gut feeling like a little girl, you remember this experience of calmly, collectively sharing your views. And now going to case B, his script and his post-hypnotic suggestions. And as you become And as you remain more relaxed and more responsible, so too you develop much more confidence in yourself, more confidence in your ability to express your views, such as the amount of beer you will drink and the amount of time you will spend out with friends and away from family. You now even choose the day when you play with your friends and the day you choose to play with your kids instead. And you do so without fear of rejection, without fear of others' desires, without unnecessary anxiety, without needing to please. Because you are a model of fatherhood. You are a dad now. You are supposed to act this way. You are supposed to have these priorities. And because of this, every day you feel more and more able and independent in your choices of when, how many, and how long you will be out. More able to stick up for yourself and the needs of your kids, to stand upon your own feet, to hold your own, no matter how tempting your friends' requests are. And now the post-hypnotic suggestions, because now you are a father. And every time you raise your arm to look at your watch, you remember that you are a father with duties to your family. Every time you feel the fullness of the belly finishing that second beer, you remember you are a father, and thus switch to a single soda before heading off to your family. You are a father, and every time you raise your arm to look at your watch, you remember you are a father with duties to your family. Every time you hear your friend say, "Come on, John, one more beer," you remember you are a father, leaving early to attend to your fatherly duties. And when your friends suggest a new bar in the middle of the evening, you suggest a new day. You are a father, and early goodbyes with your friends are pleasing to your kids. So see yourself out there now. You're having a few beers. Then watch yourself out there as he pats his belly, orders a soda, and soon says his goodbyes so that he can head home. His evening, your evening now, ends with the sweet faces of your kids as you tuck them into bed each night. And so taking in those differences, those subtle, powerful differences as you add future pace with your clients, imagining them being your clients and making those changes to a generic script, adding post-hypnotic suggestions that are specific and full of experiences, first person and third person, with much repetition, and even allowing the problem to remind them of the solution. And so 1, taking that all in, 2, 3, starting to come fully back at the count of 5. You'll be fully back into this room. 4 and 5, refreshed, alert, and back in this room, inspired to do more future pacing with your clients. And so that is how to bring future pacing into your scripts, really getting that information in the interview of what they want, what that's going to do for them, what's keeping them from getting there, and specific places where that problem shows up so that you can include it here. This is Eva Clark of Mind-Based Healing. In Mind-Based Healing, we teach hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners how to use their skills effectively with chronic disease, such as lupus, such as multiple sclerosis, cancers, arthritis. And what we teach our students is not only symptom management, because symptom management is only treating the problem at the level of the physical. What we teach our students is how to use hypnosis to discover what are the underlying psychosocial factors, psychological, relationships, social, even spiritual factors that is causing the body to say no and to break down in the way it's breaking down. So I hope to see you in one of my classes or in another one of these wonderful presentations by ACHE. It has been a pleasure to hang out with you today. See you in another presentation. Bye.